So, welcome. I am going to repair the damage done to my pride when I uploaded the voiceless videos. I do that sometimes. It happens. It's like God. Um, so basically, what my intent is to reproduce my thoughts, and I'll go through it, and then we'll look at this letter. Spoiler alert, it's exactly what I thought and what you guys thought. So, yeah, TLDW, or in this case, TLDR. The idiots at CCP decided to navel gaze, admitted they were navel gazing. Halfway through, you realize they're just looking beyond the patch into this year. It's not future. It's not, hey, gee, what do we want to do with long term plans? No, nothing. You get diddly squat. You get rah rah, we're great, rah rah. It's your job, rah rah, to integrate all this crap we've loaded on the dead systems and this zombie-like state, and then yay FanFest, and of course their usual FanFest blurb of diddly squat. So they hinted that they're now doing 2 expansions per year, which I'm assuming that's what they said at last FanFest. Oh, yeah, by the way, you didn't miss FanFest this year. It's in September. I'm sure you're like, oh, right, I forgot. So basically, it's nothing. What I'm going to do is reproduce what I talked about. What, when I see crap like this, I go, what would be my hopes for a letter about the future to infinity and beyond? And I'll lead you through it. So let's do my usual login stuff for the game. Take care of that. For my Omegas, already done my Alphas. Do, do, do. Yeah, by the way, you can load up the login screens for all your Alphas. You just can't, log in more than one. But you can get to this screen, so, and get your login rewards, and then, close it and go play another game. That's what I'm going to do. I was actually playing Diablo 2 Resurrected, and I happened to go check, because you can go to your second monitor while playing Diablo 2 and check out browser, and oops, somebody commented no audio in one of my recent videos. I'm like, oh crap. So yeah, you don't get my reaction video because this is not a reaction video. It is just repairing the damage. So what do we have here? Well, we have a promise to talk about what's beyond dispatch. And I would like to think that they would go, look, we've got all these systems in place. We promised you over a decade ago to fix the tie-dye situation for PvP with large fleet plates. And we promised tie-dye would be there along with the second leg of the solution. And they've never delivered on that. It was just a big fat lie. And they just, that's what their promises are. Big fat lies. They're complacent. They won't do anything. So the vein is what we expect of a developer of a massively multiplayer online game. Emphasis on multiplayer, emphasis on, say, sociability, is what can we do to reinforce and make the game more enjoyable for large groups of people or even small groups of people. Even a single player who wants to, say, tag an entity with a standing, but give them more options than just the red, orange, gray, blue, and dark blue, right? Navy. Why not institute? Well, we're looking at expanding that. It's been that way since release. We'd like to slowly change it a bit by taking advantage of the icons we currently have, the plus, equal, minus, and institute, blue as in, now this is me speculating. This is they've never talked about this. All right, so just a warning. This is just my hopes and fears, right? Imagining what a great letter would be, right? So it's like we want to integrate it. We want to make slow changes, easy changes that we can do with this code base. Try to make that plus, minus, equal for each of the colors to just give you a better understanding quickly of looking at local and going, okay, that person is, say, a plus orange. Kind of dangerous. They're in a, say, pirate corp, but you're not sure if you could, like, make diplomatic overtures to them and survive in their space. But of course, with pirates, you still got to be careful no matter what. But there's a potential. So you see that, okay, I still haven't dealt with that diplomatically, but you got to be careful of those people. And like, say, minus blue, like, say, if you're minus light blue. So they're friendly, they're Care Bears in the area, they're friendly, but they tend to be a bit, antisocial. So, okay, right? So that kind of, you can look at it quickly. Or even you've got 3 blue entities that you're friendly with, and you want to tell quickly which them apart, right? Especially when watching fleet fights with big groups of players, you can tag these entities, to have a better view of both sides of the conflict when there's multiple alliances and stuff fighting, right? So that would help for the visuals, stuff like that, right? So, and of course, the ancient infrastructure of corporations. Look, guys, it's been 2 decades. Nobody's come up with a really good explanation and documentation of the corporate roles and titles and how it all works with the mechanics of the game, where one certain one certain role for services or station services and blah 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 blah. How do we document that properly? Their official documents suck, like beyond suck. They just pure disinformation. It's been that way since the beginning. They, spoiler alert, brag about the Guiding Hand Social Club article in PC Gamer. Ed the Hilmar's obsessed with PC Gamer articles about his game, and it's they drink the Kool-Aid. They drink the Guiding Hand Social Club was contracted to make this hit on this guy in this corp, and they swallow that hook, line, and sinker, and that's, if you got 1 ISK for every time some Yahoo griefer who randomly decided to gank you, that it was a contract hit, yeah, we'd be all very rich. It's a favorite bullshit line. The amount of actual mercenary contracts against other players is large. It's a going concern. Say, look at Black Flag, and I'm sure Pirate back in the day had contracts, but it's not common. And the meat and bones of most of these pirates, when they hit you, is just you're on their Rolodex. They'll spin that Rolodex and come around and war deck you. Once you're on that war deck list, you will never get off it, as long as you have like structures to make you vulnerable, right? That's what a lot of Care Bears don't understand. They go, there's a war. Let's band together and fight these people. And it's like, as soon as the war is over, they'll stick their head in the sand. And that's what the pirates have gotten used to. And it's a problem. See, because CCP doesn't encourage and doesn't have coding, doesn't have mechanics to encourage anti-piracy, right? They don't have ways to deal with mercenary groups that are rampaging, pirate groups that are bashing high sex structures of carriers. They don't have policies in place to help players police that kind of thing. It's people have quit this game, and a really good, really there's heart in these people, and it just destroys their morale because there's nothing in the game that helps them. There's everything in the game that helps the pirates, mostly from pure total ignorance on the part of CCP, just deliberately not making documentation. Oh, because content creators can add. No, they haven't done it for 20 years. They won't. Do you know why they won't? Because you don't support the anti piracy people. Why should we bother writing documentation when it's very depressing? You know, we could explain all this crap, and it's massively depressing to read all this stuff. It is. You could pick apart the guiding hand social club contract hit and explain where the loopholes are. You could explain, look at people go on Safari. They've been on Safari for 20 years. Sure, CCP instituted the war deck thing where you have to have a structure in space in order to be war deckable. And they've also instituted the friendly fire coding, which makes the Safari going on Safari a little bit harder, but there are tons of loopholes still, and it's just you just point the stuff out, and the minimalist steps CCP makes is just yeah, it's not a pretty sight. And nobody, then pirates don't want to talk about it because that's their bread and butter. Why should they, you know, uh, put a spotlight on what they do when it's just going to help the other side, right? So that's CCP's myopic. Oh, explorers, you know, the explorer type, you know, bought a site explorer will document and all blah blah. It'll be wonderful and blah blah. And if they don't, well, there's secrets in the game, and it's like, yeah, but you worship PC Gamer articles about the game, and you worship biggest fights, and you just totally ignore that the fact you've never delivered on the second leg of tie dye for those big fights. You've never addressed the fact that Band of Brothers was devastated by one person taking advantage of this stupid mechanic for Alliance maintenance bills. Right? There is no ability to advance bills for the year. You couldn't just pay for the entire year. You couldn't advance for it. Like you have to pay rent once a month, and you just can't buy like a yearly rent. There's no lease going on. It's just monthly installments, and it's so myopic too. It's like, have you tried to set up automatic payments for either wars or rents? And it's like you've got divisions, and there are drop down options for making it, but it's very opaque, and there's no way to monitor it in game for the player. There isn't. It's just you choose, and then you hope you choose right, and then it doesn't give you a report. Um, Joining alliance, mind-bogglingly complex. Why do you have a step of? It's a 2003 game. Our CPUs and RAM had advanced massively since then, and they still have click all at the bottom to show everybody so you can find the alliance you want to join. That just that's just they just So it's like we want to expand this, we want to fix this, we want to make it enjoyable for the social aspect of this game. Not PC Gamer wrote another article about us. It's just mind blowing. And they don't, because they fritter away all their revenue on trendy IPs that Hilmar loves because he's an ex CTO. He's always been a CTO. He still is a CTO in his brain. And for him, just think of the worst management possibility. The Russians have a saying for it. It's Vanya. I've watched Perun videos. Ukraine, Australian guy. He's got, I think he's got roots in Ukraine. But anyways, he's great, great, great PowerPoint presenter. I know that sounds really bad, but he talks about the Russian concept of Vanya, where he explains it better. But it's lies based on lies. Everybody knows everybody's lying, and everything's fine. And everybody covers their own ass by saying, "Oh, their underlings told them otherwise." I didn't know the truth, but they do. It's just lies built on lies, and the failures get promoted because they have to lie the most. And it's like, if you tell the truth, your reports look dog shit compared to everybody else. It's just this horrible, horrible. We know they're lying to us. They know. We know they're lying to us. And they say everything's fine, everything's wonderful. Look at our navel, it's so wonderful. We look at it all the time. It's like, yeah, you know. And they go, oh, we can't fix it because the spaghetti code, blah 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 blah. It's like some MOGs, MMOs, have rewritten their code twice over for free, and you guys just fritter away your into trendy IPs. It's just pathetic. So, yeah, you'll never get a decent letter about this kind of social aspect. I mean, let's look at other stuff. Viridian and Balan, we've done faction warfare ships. We want to make more ships in the future. We're thinking about focusing on industry ships, like like a large fleet hangar kind of ship that has a huge fleet hangar, maybe 500,000 cubic meters, stuff like that. We're relooking at making more options for specific holds, like ore holds and ammo holds. Lol, that was a joke, wasn't it? But it's like that kind of thing. Like, how about more interesting industrial ships, right? How about more expedition frigates? A porpoise-like uh, command vessel that's designed to go in with expedition frigates. And those new expedition frigates can mount the the nullifier that you can go through bubbles and stuff in nullsec, stuff like that. Stuff focusing on industry and taking a look at industry and going, look, guys, we realize that the new players we're trying to attract are facing a situation where, hey, they want to build stuff for a new player doing missions. They don't really know what kind of stuff to do. Play a few missions, you realize that damage controls and stuff like that. But what about the Tech 1 gear that they make for new, like level 1, level 2, level 3 players? You want to contribute to the economy, but the minerals that you need have to be mined in low and null. Whereas if you want a mission and you just loot and salvage and reprocess that stuff, you'll get minerals for stuff, and you'll get loot that, like, look at the loot that gets dropped. It's not tied to, okay, what's the ship flying, it'll drop that gear. Like, look at fobs, like pirate strongholds. They will drop structures that the structure uses in combat against you, right? Directly. And they drop that. You process, it'll give you just standard minerals, but it gives you the entire gamut of the minerals, a plethora of freaking minerals. It's just mind blowing how much you could fund any project with just that. It's just self contained. You just have everything. It's like, but that doesn't seem fair. It just doesn't seem fair that blueprints for Tech 1 stuff that level 1, level 2, and level 3 player would reasonably use in missions that buy this stuff because they lose ships. Well, you know, and it's like, why don't you rework some of the blueprints for this stuff that a new player could go, hey, I can build this mining stuff in HiSec, build it, and supply it to a station. And speaking of stations, why don't we have, say, 3 NPC agents per station that have the ability to multiple types of divisions in, security or courier, blah blah blah, right? Mining missions. And when you pick that, it'll give you a few options for that, like security missions. They'll give you like 3 security mission options, and those missions are procedural, right? I mean, I'm talking a bigger rework here, but I am so sick of rescuing that damsel in distress. It's like the same layout, the same mission. It's not procedural. We know exactly where everything is. Yes, the websites are great in helping us avoid ambushes and losing our ship, which means we have to buy more ships and the destruction, right? CCP loves destruction. That's great. And making it procedural would introduce risk again and would increase the destruction, which is good for them. Bad for the website managers who now have an obsolete system. And I would be sorry for them if that happened, but that is the end of an era, and I'd welcome that, because it would be interesting. It would be fun. It would be even cooler if we could access those agents and, say, upgrade them using loyalty points to increase their level when dealing with ourselves, right? What level could you upgrade this person to? Could you upgrade to level 4? Probably not, because you need carriers and they'd be high sec, so it wouldn't be possible to and just make a limit for how high, right? And if it was level 4, and if you could run level 4 missions in high sec, would you go in with a group, right? That could deal with that, right? I mean, incursions do it all the time. Why not, right? So it's just a rethink of the possibilities. The context needs to be shifted, out of our comfort zone into something interesting. And that would be cool. And that would be really nice, because currently people, quote unquote, blitz missions by using alts to cycle through and reject missions in rapid order to find the good missions and run those, currently, right? But having that option, if you change it up, I mean, this doesn't have to be all encompassing. They could just simply make those characters in those stations and have the options to pick like 3 different missions, and that would help loads with this single account player not able to multi-box and have the enjoyment of picking and choosing. And wouldn't that be cool if your standings with this agent, when they got higher, it would lower or would shorten the time delay needed between rejecting multiple missions with this agent to avoid the standings hit, right? So wouldn't that be good? It would be more immersive. All I'm doing here is more immersion. That's all I'm doing. CCP can focus on PC Gamer articles. I'm focused on immersion. And it's different from CCP's idea of immersion. CCP's idea of immersion is strap you down, force you to watch a cutscene, and then it's a very scripted tutorial of the new player experience. And they literally bragged about how immersive it was. That let's not make fun of them. Let's take them seriously. They absolutely believe in their little microcosm of Vanya that immersion is forcing the player to do something scripted and enjoy their little show. Navel gazing. It's totally like everything ties into how CCP treats us and treats each other at CCP headquarters. I mean, this is just. And spoiler alert: you read this. This tells you more about them than the game and us as a community. Right? They're they'll talk about a narrative arc, and they've been yapping about it since they dropped the quadrants, and they want to go this new route of narrative arcs and have us as quote unquote co-creators. But a co-creator would be a make your own adventure. A co-creator would be, you guys are gonna pick this, like, who gets the first, like, shipcaster thing and who gets the last, and based on which of the four combinations that is, that changes the storyline that CCP has created behind this expansion, this introduction of new modules, new events, and blah blah blah. But I can guarantee you that has never happened, never is happening, and never will happen, because to them, all the co-creators do is who's first, and they don't celebrate. Remember Edencom at the end of that huge, when Pochven was created, the the pro whatchamacallits had a great time. It celebrated. They pretty much won. Naranja was low sec, or not even there anymore. It was low sec. Then it got taken to Pochven, and all these systems were gone. And what was in the game by the devs for Edencom? Nothing. They hadn't considered the life of the community that grew up around the two playstyles of defend versus help, the Triglavians, and it was devastating, and you could see the band-aids they tried to put on it, but they didn't pay much attention to it because they stare at their navels. We're great. The next patch is going to be awesome. Who cares about these guys, right? Who cares about Bob? Who cares about this? Who cares? It's just me, 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 me. It's just so much narcissism. It's just textbook narcissism. And it's just really sad how they gaslight us so much. And you'll see it. I just won't even bother. It's so sad. It's just navel gazing. They talk about the past. They talk about this is like, they talk about yeah. It's just blather. It's just marketing blather that isn't a letter about the beyond. It's just staring at their navel, and then anything else, it's up to the player to integrate all this stuff. It's not them saying, "Hey, look, we want to make this bridge. I know we're trying to have these new stuff with the home front things, but we want to like tie it in with, say, the new player experience, and moving forward somehow integrate all this stuff so it's a seamless in no, they dump it all in the players' laps. Here you go, job done. It's like wash their hands of Pontius Pilate. It's just like sickening, because and they also say this is the best, biggest, wonderful game, and it's like, no, it's not. It's like right now the idiots are paying freaking Star Citizen, that vaporware nightmare, just so much money, and that's big right now. Cyberpunk 2077, I'd like to get into that. That's big right now. um, MMOs for science fiction, they have beat that drum about we're the longest standing, biggest, blah 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 science fiction MMO. Guys, not really. I mean, you've stagnated at 20k PCUs forever since it mattered, um, and it's not dying. It's gonna take a long time for this game to die, uh, but it is heading towards that threshold, um, and it will become, yeah, more noticeable as the years goes by. But yeah, it's not pretty for them to still brag about the biggest MMO, because what are they gonna do? It's gonna be really sad when they're not anymore. What are they gonna say then, right? We get it. It will happen. There's more market for fantasy stuff than science fiction. We all know that. But what's gonna happen when it does? And they still say that. Wouldn't that be sad? Yeah. So yeah, I'm not gonna waste your time this going through this and quoting this stuff. The last time I did it yesterday, I had my wife in the background. She spent more time listening to me than you guys did. Yeah, she was, yeah, totally not thrilled. But yeah, I was not interested in any of this. It's just lies upon lies upon lies upon, just looking in the past, the recent past, looking at the patch they just developed and not talking about stuff before that. They're not trying to integrate into the future, and any integration, they literally tell us they go from Homefront, one paragraph, to talk about NPE the next. Like, they just totally change the subject, talk about NPE, and say the integration between MPE and Homefront stuff is your guys' job. It's just so sad. And of course, you get to the fanfic thing, and we all know it. It's they hint about nothing, you know. So, oh God, look at that, delivered. Lol. So yeah, yeah. So we don't know the name of the next expansion, right? And we don't know if they're going to release it at FanFest, but they have a reputation for not releasing patches on FanFest Day, um, or at least a recent reputation for that. Um, it's pretty sad. Conflict drivers. Yeah, this is what I meant. Apple plus pear equals pineapple. And if you read their old economy dev blog about, we're gonna do redistribution or scarcity and something else, and they say it'll be a conflict driver, and it never, you read it and you look at it in the past and you're like, how did they even A, think this, and B, how did we even drink the Kool-Aid that their quadrants and their economic phases were anything but nerf, nerf, nerf. That was it. And it was just pure marketing bullshit. And Rattati just got bored he literally said, we're done with quadrants. Let's move on to something new. And it's like, that sounds like a marketing person. That doesn't sound like marketing is driving development. And that's, you know, just based on the empty headed, talking head verbiage of marketing and their idea of role play, character, narrative arcs, and it's just vomit inducing. But yeah, I'd like to get into the game and try out the new corporate projects. I'd like to get in the game and try out the new Homefront stuff, and I'd like to get back into the game and check out how dreadnoughts affect uh, structure fights. But I don't have a dog in that fight anymore, um, and I just know that, just trust me that this letter doesn't speak to any of that. You know, it'll 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 regurgitate talking points from their dev blogs about it, but you're not going to learn anything new. So don't waste your time. Um, yeah, yeah, it's a shame. I mean, the ability to integrate their new mechanics to improve the mechanics of the past and bring it together has never been CCP's bread and butter. Their bread and butter is hyping up the next patch and being Alzheimer's like level of forgetfulness about the past. And it's kind of sad. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that pretend infinity and beyond letter to the community, but all you get is the usual condescension. Oh, there's one. Oh my God, they instead of saying capsulators at one point, they say humans. And they even act like God. Yes, New Eden created your baby. It's like, yes, okay. Yeah, like I said, it just talks about them more than it talks about us. This is an insight into how narcissistic they are. And it won't get any better. They'll never, like, they will never come to terms with how shitty they are. Because to do that, it was, it's Vanya. I mean, they've been lying for so long. To stop lying, you know? So, good luck to them. But yeah, it would be neat to see what they accomplish with the new patches in the future, adding random stuff, and maybe one day you'll have a Tech 2 ECM drone. I don't know. you know, you know, a Tech 2 Bastion module, or maybe they'll deal with the fact that they didn't really nerf Marauders in the way they needed to, and they just, yeah, it's just a blunt instrument. They they they're a hammer. They see everything like a nail, and they want to hammer it, and it's just yeah, Hammy's created by New Eden. It's like, what? Yeah, because it's like, look, it's so revealing. Like, check this out. So these two sentences immediately followed after this sentence. There was no, there's always going to be a record-breaking fleet fight in the future. There always will be. You know, um, their ability to brag about this stuff. When we eventually drop below the 20K PCU threshold, then they'll no longer have record-breaking fleet fights. But when we have such an old community, the ability to have bigger and bigger fights is just naturally going to occur because there's not enough choice in who you're going to join. So eventually, everybody's going to have, it's just going to be massive. And the thing is, they just focus on record breaking, but they don't give context. Like, why was the fury of FWST important in this looking forward? Like, why was it important? Why was the massacre important? You know, when was it? How long ago was it? The context, right? When, where, who, what community was involved in that? Um, who were the humans involved? Who were the families involved? Who was the community involved in that? No, it's just record breaking, just a number to them, just a metric, and it's just like brag, 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 and then they talk about it's just. And the next freaking couple of sentences, they'd switch completely to talking about humans and what they've created. And it's like, Jesus Christ. There's no celebration of community, right? And then they talk about real life. It's like, you started out talking about Capsuleers, not dear customers. They've never said that. Dear patrons of this game, dear um, subscribers. Never. But if they're going Glorious Capsuleers, stay in freaking. Like when I first read this, I was like, whoa, that's so OOC. Could you freaking stay in character, please? You know? It's like, wow. I was kind of creepy. And then it was like, whoa, that's kind of. And then I read this and it was like, whoa, that's like Freudian. I mean, from the great Guiding Sands Social Club heist, it's like that took early Eve by storm. It's still taking it by storm. People are still being ripped off by because idiots like this, knuckle dragging morons, you just pick a target, rip them off because they have experience ripping off targets, and the loopholes are so obvious once you see them, and they take advantage of people who haven't seen them yet, who take advantage of people who are confused. It's like, hey, give me a director, we'll fix your problems, no problem. It's nothing big deal. Steal, rip off, you know? And it's like so scary that the few loopholes they have closed, they haven't mentioned, you know? Uh, which loopholes are closed, which are now open, which are new loopholes, which are ways that, people on Safari, like these people, have done it for years and they have massive experience and they're dealing with people who've never experienced, who are completely naive. So yeah, it didn't take it by storm. The target was like back in the day. I was playing then, and I thought Pie, it was the name of the alliance. It was kind of like CVA. I think they were part of CVA actually. Anyway, so Pi was very Amara Victor, and this guy, uh, Ubiquitous Seraph, that was his corporation name or alliance name. I think it was corporation. Anyways, he had a kind of like a copycat kind of Marian thing, and it was so cute. And he got attention, and I think these people were just jealous that he got attention, and they just, oh, target, and they just picked on him, and they griefed him, and then they made this idiotic claim that, oh, it was a contract hit, and yeah, like I said before, the amount of is you get every time that bullshit line was used is just phenomenal, you know. But yeah, it was a shame, but I it was some guy who had a little bit of passion in the game, who really put a lot of work into it, and they treated him like crap, and they denigrated him, and they made him look like an idiot, and made fun of him. And these guys are just bullies, and they're celebrated by CCP, and that should be a source of great shame for them. And I'm embarrassed for CCP. But after 2 decades of being embarrassed for CCP, you just kind of stop giving a crap about Hilmar and the rest of them. I mean, this just. You could have Ashtarothi White Knight it all you want, talking about how. Yeah, I mean, if you've put in the effort to bullshit about this game, it's going to look really good. I mean, Ashtarothi probably got really involved in that co-creating stuff. Probably had a huge hand in organizing and hosting and pushing people to help with the construction of these shipcasters. And that's a wonderful thing. And he's got great things to say about, like, he's got the lore down pat, and it's really awesome. But I just know that if you actually if you focus on a storyline or a character uh, a little bit too much, CCP will just kill them off because it'll start taking a life of its own. And CCP loves immersion, and guess what immersion is to them? Right, strap you down and watch your cutscenes. So to me, I know that anything that takes, like, the Min Matters, they should be labor union focused. What form would a labor force take, a socialist labor force oriented organization take, that's beyond just the unions of today in real life, our unions, right? Because these unions were the only acceptable form of labor force the companies back then would accept in the courts in negotiations. They forced the labor organizations to form these unions, which could be, a victory for one isn't a victory for all. Like the labor unions like to say, oh, we no, you got in front of the parade with your banners, but the people behind it weren't you. You know, people demonstrating won labor rights, not the freaking unions winning it for their people. You, right? Um, it's like a opposite trickle down thing. If you give all the unions, it'll trickle down and everybody will benefit. It's not. It's BS on both sides. I love capitalism. Don't get me wrong. A free market that isn't a corporate welfare state would be wonderful. If there are regulations and, corporations should face the same hard, uh, independent, what they, you know, telling the school kid to a rugged individualism, and no help. And then at the same time, that same politician is giving the most subsidies in U.S. history, or in the U.S. at the time, to his own constituent corporation, the constituents, the corporations in his district. So that's socialism for freaking corporations, and it shouldn't be that way. But if you look at it, it's like, okay, we've got the labor force in Minmatter. The Caldari would be the socialism for corporations, right? Too big to fail. The theology would be the U.S. I mean, it's basically a theology. Let's not mince our words here, but they're controlled by evangelicals. Amar should be evangelical like. Breathing some life into these factions to give them a more, like, you can't just look at Minman and go, oh, unions. No, you just gotta, like, what would be an advanced stage of, like, if a union's, like, I mean, they just broke away, like, is it all gonna be tribal? Is it not unions? Maybe it's pure tribal. Maybe they went back to their roots and it's all tribal. That's kind of weird. I mean, what would form of that take? Would it be feudal? Right? I mean, everybody has their lot in life for life, right? They don't change. Uh, Watch the Black Death deal with that one, right? But it's like, what would, like, Galente? What would the Galente, like that? Galente seems kind of like French, almost very, you know, very decadent, kind of, right? Uh, Stuff like that. Just breathe more life into stuff than just say, "Oh, theology, good." It's like, ugh, But these narrative arcs, they are just placeholders, and CCP has always treated them like placeholders. They've never grown and evolved. I mean, there were great videos back then. Back in the day, I've got videos like showing the old. I've got a video with links to not only the old voice commentated videos of the factions back then, but the current ones they made, and they're both beautiful, but they both really don't go beyond the placeholders. And it would be really cool if, like, guys, we've got this background of all this stuff, and we've got these, we've got Bob, we've got Goonswarm, we've got, acknowledge that, start making a narrative that doesn't name these individuals. Like, there's no hagiography going on. Just what form have these entities, that player entities, capsuleer entities, not human entities, of the community, what form have they taken? What strategies have they taken? What politics have they instituted? You just take that general concept and mesh that into the current narrative of how the non-capsuleers empires deal with the capsuleers, right? I mean, how much cooperation is there? I mean, the Edencom thing, how much cooperation did Edencom get compared to the Treglabian? How many traitorous capsuleers helped the Treglabian? You know, stuff like that. Just this integration of, but they don't have good writers. And that's all it boils down to. Because Silmar fritters his revenue away on trendy uppies. And we've got a bare bones piece of crap that has barely gotten off its feet. It's only by kicking and screaming over the top technology hurdles that it's gotten better. A friend of mine said, this game, EVE Online, improves through fluke. And yeah. But yeah, anyways, I'll shut up now and go back to playing Diablo 2 Resurrected. I'm getting more. I've got more energy right now. In real life, work has been for the last 3 months exhausting, emotionally draining, intellectually, everything. Um, but I instituted a change at work. I um, there's a quote by some neocon, neoliberal, pro corporate guy that goes, if you want to help yourself, tell people what they want to hear. If you want to help others, tell the truth. And he obviously sided on the Vanya side. But I instituted this change at work. That has made my life a hell of a lot easier, and my coworkers too. My the real coworkers, not the people who were being counterproductive. And management has not congratulated me, not thanked me, not anything. They've taken all the credit for it, and they continue with their Vanya lies, and it's great. But they have hired somebody who is willing to learn from me, is willing to cooperate, is willing to collaborate with me in my direct department. And that's going to be, God, it's going to be much easier to do the things I know I need to do in my department and get done. And it's going to be so relaxing. So I'll have a lot more energy and will most likely be able to not pass out when I get home and be able to actually devote, because Eve's a lifestyle. It's an absolute lifestyle. You spend so much time in this game. And yeah, I mean, I'm playing other games, but it doesn't have the same feel of a MOG. In a MOG, like back in 2004, 2003, some guy in another game long, long time ago, Jumpgate actually, said, I wonder if it was First Core 13. Anyway, so he said, the one thing I like about MMOs is that you can jump in, you don't have to wait in the lobby, and you can start up where you left off before. And that's huge. And you, of course, you share your stuff with others potentially, and it's a great draw. Um, yeah, and I'd like to get back into it again. But yeah, the mining, like, I used to love mining in Losec, but we've got the Russians in our area, the players in our area. They have a tactic of using cloaked bombers to come in, and there's no delay in targeting with a bomber. You get in, light a Sino because it's a covert ops, like a covert ops Sino, point something, and in comes Blops battleships, right? Completely waste my team. But back then, I would have the ability to use Warpcore stabs. 3 of them. Do you know why I use 3 of them? Because they were passive. They added up. The Tech 2s never had +2 point. They always +1. So griefers can, if they want to destroy your game, can just lump that one extra point on you, and they all stack. Whereas you, well, you can't anymore, and you can't. There was never a +2 Tech 2 option. There was just each work or stab gave you +1, right? So you could stack them, but now you can't. It's an active thing, and it only gives you +2. Even the Tech 2 gives you +2. And their faction scrams, which they used at the time, would counter 3 points or 2 points, right? So I needed 3 workhorse stabs, and now I can't. I only get 2. Their faction scrams will get me. That eliminated a way to make myself safe. I was completely safe because, if they appeared in my belt, I had to cloak up. That's a risk I had to take. But it was fun because I didn't have to deal with the high-sec morons who just wouldn't communicate, had stupid names, would totally act like bots. In some cases, they were bots. And in low-sec, you didn't get that. And it was a wonderful, in low-sec, it's more sociable because there's consequences for being a douche in low-sec. And there's consequences for shooting people in low-sec too, right? So that's why I enjoyed low-sec. Jesus, I know, right? Trying to explain to CCP that, could you make Tech 2 active worker stabs give you +3? So that point that damn covert bomber is doing, so he can drop a freaking fleet of multi-billion battleships on a tiny little frigate force is just, could you just use your freaking brains? And it's like, why did you not allow nullification modules to be placed on expedition frigates and porpoise? And who sucked your D long enough until something happened? For how much and for how long? Until you just, okay, that's a bad idea to put those on them. And it's like mind-blowingly stupid how this game is like completely dumbed down. And yeah, I blame a lot on freaking the big blobs, like the nullsec blobs, for sliming into the CSM, for kissing ass. But then blame also has to be put on CCP2 for falling for that crap. And why they get so butthurt about hate, like the forum trolls. Like, why? Like, why would you care about hate? Just look for constructive stuff, and discard the rest. Like 95% of the stuff on forums since the forums were invented is BS. You just sift through and find the good ones. Look for the constructive stuff that you can use. And if it's not, ignore it. And don't think that's representative of the player base. Because it's not. It's totally not. There are people who just live on the forums. God. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, I'm done. That took long enough, huh? Have yourselves a good one, and God, I hope this works. Because I don't have a script for this. Please, my microphone have worked.